Okay.
We are with Justin Gurney, that is the son of the F1 driver that was Dan Gurney, but he not was only an F1 driver. He drove like in IndyCar, NASCAR, and endurance racing. So he was a really good driver. He invented many things like the champagne celebrations on the podium and the Gurney flap or Gurney bubble, to say a few things. And I'm very honored to be with you and that I can talk with you, Justin.
Oh yeah, thank you so much, Noah. It's great being here. Thanks for having me.
Obviously, Gurney was a driver in F1, but in many other categories. But I would like to know, how did his passion for racing begin? Was it thanks to his father and mother, or he just liked racing?
Right. Yeah, believe it or not, his mother and father weren't into cars at all. He grew up. He was born in New York, and he said that there was a small oval track there that he used to go and hear the cars going around, and he was very interested in that. Um, and when he was a young boy, he moved to Riverside, California, which is very close to where we live now. And Southern California was a hot rod heaven, if you will. And he met some guys at school, and they were into cars, and that's kind of where it started. And I don't think his mom or dad wanted him to be a race car driver at all. His dad was an opera singer of all things, so completely opposite of what you would think. Yeah.
In 1952, I know that he decided to go in war in Korea, but why did he take this decision? So I would like to know this.
Sure. He was one of the most patriotic person you could think of, and he wanted to represent his country and felt he needed to serve. So he actually um, volunteered to go to Korea and fight.
I
Yeah.
know that then, while he was racing, obviously he had a family, but he also had a job. So he had to decide if to keep going with his job or keep racing. And he shocked everyone and he decided to keep racing. So, do you know why he took that decision?
Yeah, actually, he worked at a place called Hunter Engineering, which was making of all a lot of things, but a lot of aluminum things. And he was so good at his job, he moved up. And one day, his manager said, "Look, Dan, you either do this or racing. I can't have you do both because they're getting in the way of each other." And luckily, he decided to go the racing route and left that job. And it was a risk, obviously, but it worked out.
But did he like his job before?
Yeah, I think he loved his job. He loved making things. He was always a tinkerer, if you will. Um, and I know there's a race you might talk about it, but there's a race that he did, a Trans Am race that he won at in Texas. And they said it was 112 degrees in the shade, 112 degrees Fahrenheit in the shade. And the car had holes in the firewall and all that heat from the engine going inside. And so you could imagine how hot it must have been. And he said that he got through that race from that job where he had to work in front of a furnace. And I think he said that helped him cope with the heat. So having that job helped him win that race. Yeah.
I know that Dan raced for Ferrari in Formula One as well, and I know that when he took a test for Enzo Ferrari, while Enzo Ferrari was there to see him, he crashed on the day he did his test, while putting a new set of tires, but he did good enough laps to convince Enzo Ferrari to sign him before obviously he crashed. What memories did he have about this, and was he a bit concerned that Ferrari wouldn't sign him?
Of course. Yeah, he told me a lot about that. Well, first he said he got a phone call when he was in Southern California. He had done very well and won a couple races in a Ferrari over here, a 4.9 Testarossa, and word got to Italy that there's this kid in Southern California who's extremely fast, and you should give him a test so Enzo called Dad, and of course he jumped at the chance. He told me when he got there on the morning of that test, he sat there not knowing what to do. He'd never been to the track before. Obviously, I don't even think he'd never been to Europe before. And here come all these black Fiats all driving in, um, and Enzo gets out and basically says, show me what you got. And I think the test driver at the time maybe was Jean Barra, I think, and he went out and did a set of time, and then sent Dad out. And yeah, he crashed the car. Of course, he thought, that was it. I just blew my big shot. But his lap time, I think he might have equaled the lap time, and that was good enough to give him a chance. Yeah.
Speaking about Ferrari and Dan, there is a legend about your father that I would like to know if it's true. Enzo Ferrari called Dan to do some tests with Severi because he needed to replace the drivers who died. That was Musso and Collins. So he did the test, but your father was not faster than Severi because it seems he kept a roll of crash money in his pocket, and so he was not driving comfortably, obviously, because he thought that some of the mechanics would steal his money, so he decided to keep it in the pocket under his suit.
Yeah.
Is it
Um,
true?
I think the money in his pocket. Yeah. So he said he told me he had a big old stack of lira, I guess, right? And his leg went to sleep. Now I don't know about all the rest of that. I don't think that's correct. As far as worrying about them stealing his money and stuff, I never heard that before. I think he just forgot it in his pants um, pocket, and yeah, I'd never heard the rest of that. So that might be just wives' tale thing. I haven't heard the rest of that.
In 1960, your father made the brutal decision to leave Ferrari and to go to BRM. Why did he choose that? And considering that Ferrari obviously was a pretty good team at the time, I wanted to know why he chose to go to BRM.
Yeah. So, of course, in hindsight, it was a bad decision, right? Um, he a couple reasons. One, the he was only getting paid. I don't know. I'm making sure you still hear me.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you.
Okay. One, I think he was only getting paid 300 something dollars a month or some tiny number, and he had a family, and so that wasn't working. And also he had heard that the next year's Ferrari was going to have the motor in the front, while everyone else puts their engines in the rear. And I think those two things made him decide to leave. And he probably always kicked himself, because the next year they did put the engine in the rear. Um, so first it was not enough money just to live, and second, hearing about the motor still in the front. Yeah.
Obviously, then the next year in 1961, Ferrari dominated and won the championship. And basically, at the Belgian Grand Prix, they finished first, second, third, and fourth with all of their cars. So, yeah, of course, in hindsight, as you said, it was a bad decision. Can
Yeah.
you tell me the story of the Gurney bubble? Because I know that Dan was very tall, so he wanted to modify the car and basically to make him fit better.
Yes. So, getting in the GT40, when he first got in, he would sit there and he'd be like this, because imagine, yeah, he was like, 6'3", and then when your helmet on, you got another, whatever above your head, right? So yeah, he said he would drive like this, and his head's hitting the top. So he said, I need to do something here. So yeah, um, there's a guy named Phil Remington who was a famous fabricator and a good family friend. And I think he actually dug a hole in the ground and shaped the bubble and put a piece of aluminum there and pounded the shape out, and then just cut a hole and welded it on the GT40 so his head could fit in there. Um, and he did that on several of his cars. And he actually, in 2005, um, uh, they made a GT, a new Ford GT for a street car for dad, and it has the bubble as well. Yeah, street car.
I know that then invented the celebrating in F1, after you get the trophy, you pop the champagne, and
Sure.
so you do the celebration like this, obviously.
Yeah.
And and I know that he invented it because usually the drivers, I think, would not spread it into the other drivers. I think they would just drink the bottle.
Yeah. So at you started it at Le Mans '67, and he said that that was his 10th try winning the race. He had won it the GT class in a Cobra, but never overall. So '67, when he won overall, he said he used a California slang a little bit. He said, "I was so stoked to win the race." He goes, "I just felt I had to do something," and he said. Henry Ford II, his wife, and all the photographers are all sitting there. And he said, I just, sprayed it and sprayed all of them. And of course, they're like, what are you doing? But he said he was just so happy to finally win it. That's what happened. And crazy thing is, after he sprayed it, obviously he didn't figure he started something. It was just a thing. He took that bottle and he handed it to a photographer, Life magazine photographer, handed him the bottle, and then Dad got whisked off to do whatever, something else. And that guy, his name was Flip Schulke, and he he held that bottle to the end of his life, at his house, and he gifted it back to our family. So we still have that bottle from that day spraying.
I
Yeah.
think it was in F1 in Belgium in 1967 when he won with his own car that was the Eagle TG1. And
Yeah.
obviously, people know Bruce McLaren winning, obviously creating McLaren and then having a very winning team to this day. And the Jack Brabham creating Brabham that obviously he won with his car. But then won a race with his own car, and I wanted to know how were his sensations after winning that race. That was his main achievement of his career in F1.
Yeah, so obviously making your own car, American car, it was actually designed and built maybe 10 miles from where I'm sitting right now. The company still exists, All American Racers. Um, and you can imagine that finally doing something like that is he felt. I've heard him say before when he was flying home from there. He said, "If the plane went down, so be it. I did it." So, you know, it meant a ton to him, of course. Um, Now he had won at Brands Hatch too, the Race of Champions in the Eagle as well. Although it wasn't a points race, so he actually won a more than one. But yeah, Spa was a big deal, and still is to this day. Um, and another one, I don't know if you're familiar with that. He at at uh, um, at the Nürburgring. Um, he was leading. He had like a 40 something second lead, 42-second lead with 2 laps to go in the Eagle, and it broke. That would have been a good one too. Yeah.
Your father is also a legend because he invented what is sometimes in is on F1 cars now. That
Yeah.
is obviously the Gurney flap. People when people say this in F1, speaking about that, they probably don't know who invented it, but it was obviously your father, and invented that in back in 1971. But what was what did he wanted to do creating this flap? What was his idea?
Sure. So he told me that on the Le Mans car, it didn't have a wing, but it did have a spoiler on it, right? And he said that he played with the height of that spoiler a lot during testing before Le Mans '67. And he goes, the I think the Mulsanne was over 3 miles in, 3 point something miles straight away. So he goes, if you have too much drag there, you're losing time, but then the rest of the track, it's different. So he goes, I would play with that spoiler and lower it, an eighth of an inch, quarter inch, and he goes, I could feel it immensely. So they're at maybe let's say they're at Phoenix Raceway with our IndyCar Eagle 1971, and they've been testing all day and they weren't going any faster, weren't making big gains. And I think Bobby Unser said, who was our driver at the time, he said, Dan, can't you come up with something? You're supposed to be supposed to figure this out. And then Dad said, you know what? I've been thinking about this thing. He goes, why don't we, in essence, put a spoiler on the end of the wing? Um, and they tried that. Actually, Dad went and bent a piece of aluminum and they riveted it to the end of the wing. And Bobby went out and tested it. And they only had it on the rear wing. Okay. So Bobby went around and came in and said, the car is awful. Something's really wrong. It just pushes everywhere. It's pushing all over the place. And they were like, what? Pushing? So obviously the rear of the car was pinned to the ground and now the front's not. So they put some gurneys on the front wing. He went around, he came back in, and everybody's, the stopwatch was like, oh my gosh. And they said, is anybody around? Back in the day, they used to, people would hide in the stands and time you and watch you. And they would say, oh my God. Bobby says, I think we just found the biggest gain in the last, 60 years. We should get out of here and hide this thing. Um, so they did. They were able to keep it quiet for a while, and then people started saying, what's that on the wing there? And they would say, oh, we didn't make a very good wing. It's very kind of bendy, so we put a little stiffener on top. They would try to come up with ideas on how to hide it. Um, but it was quite something. And when we went to Indy in '72, our car beat the record from before by 18 miles an hour, which is unheard of. Still the biggest jump to this day, and that's partly because the gurney flap.
Engineers would definitely notice this in these days, obviously. But
Yeah.
for the next question, Dan was one of the first drivers to wear helmets
Hmm.
that like this, you know, a
Yep.
little bit like this. Before they only had basically the visor
Okay.
and nothing blocking their mouths. So I wanted to know also why did Dan decide to do this change? Obviously, everyone started to use it in the becoming years, but I wanted to know why did he do that for his for his safety, or he saw it from someone else.
Yeah, so if you look at some of the races before, a lot of the guys would wear a rag, right? They put a rag over their when they had a full open face helmet. They put a rag over or whatever. And he told me one time a rock, I forget where it was now, but a rock went through his windshield and went by his head, going 130 miles an hour. And he said, "Oh, that would if that would hit him in the mouth or somewhere else, it would have been awful." So at one point, he even made a leather mask and covered his face. There's some pictures out there. He's got a leather mask, and he was big. Dad was huge into motorcycles. He loved motorcycles. He respected motorcycle racers a lot, and some people were wearing a full face helmet already in motorcycle racing. So Bell had this helmet, I think Bell Star helmet, and said, Dad, would you try it? And he said, of course. So yeah, he wore that in. It was the first in Formula One to wear it, and first in IndyCar to wear it. And he said everyone was making fun of him, saying, "Oh, you look like an astronaut. What is that?" And then obviously after a while they go, "Oh, that's actually pretty good." And they started trying it. And he said at first it leaked like a sieve, and he taped up, the visor with tape everywhere because he said, "Oh, the wind would make all sorts of noise because the air was going through it." And our family still has that first helmet that he wore that day. We still have it. Yeah.
Can you tell me your best memories with your dad? And was there a time in which you will remember forever with your dad?
Oh boy, yeah. Well, there's a ton of those. There's a lot. So, well, unfortunately, I was born in 71 and he retired in 1970. So I didn't get to see him race professionally, um, except one time. He did a lot of pro celebrity races at Long Beach Grand Prix, and he won a lot of those, and they were very memorable. But he did do a one-off race. I was 9 years old at Riverside, which was he won all sorts of races at Riverside, IndyCar races, NASCAR races. So this was a NASCAR race. Um, so I'm 9, and he hadn't driven in a decade. So he retired in 70, and this race was 1980. And he decided to do a one-off NASCAR race. And he was Dale Earnhardt's teammate. Um, and I think he qualified, I want to say seventh, sixth or seventh. And he got up to as high as second place. And then I think the transmission broke or something broke, unfortunately. And he came to a stop right in front of where we were sitting in turn 6. Um, so that's obviously a big one because that's the only time I got to see him race professionally. So I'll never forget that, of course. Um, and then later on, uh, like I told you, he was big time into motorcycle riding. And we would ride with him on the weekends, dirt bikes or street bikes. From I got my first motorcycle in 1984, and he rode all the way up to 2000. He probably rode up to like 2015. So I got to ride with him from 84 to 2015. Yeah.
So you were born in the year in which invented the Gurney flap. Maybe dedicated that to you.
Yes, I guess so. Maybe. Yeah. Yeah.
How does your family carry the legacy of your father? Obviously, he's still a very famous person to this day. As I said, invented the Gurney flap, invented more modern helmet, so he's still popular in this side of things. But how do you carry his legacy?
Yeah. So, yeah, we try to keep it alive. I know fame is fleeting, which is sad, but um, yeah, we're right to this day. We bought a building that's very close to AR. We're making a sort of a museum, if you will, with a lot of his race cars and memorabilia, including the champagne bottle and that helmet, among other things. And we've been able to retain a lot of the race cars that he drove and built, and hold on to those, and we will display those in our place when we're finished pretty soon. And then I mean, we have a lot of memorabilia. We try to hold on to everything that we can, trophies, etc. Um, and I hope that my kids and my brother's kids, keep it and do the same.
How would you like that people that are watching this interview would like to? What would you say to the people that are watching this interview to remember your father? What is one thing that you would like to know that you want to remember about your father?
Oh boy. Well, as far as racing is concerned, I hope they remember his passion, and of course for American fans that he went over there and tried his best and uh, represented the country well, which meant a lot to him. Um, and as far as out of racing, he was the best dad you could ever ask for.
Thank you so much, Justin. It was really a good interview, and really enjoyed this so much. I enjoyed talking with you. So thank you so much for this interview. It is really an honor to talk with you.
Great. No, thank you so much for having me. Great meeting you, and keep it up. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Okay. See you. Bye bye.